All right, everyone, we're back for another deep dive. And, we like to tackle the stuff that can really make a difference. And this one is no joke. I mean, leading a remote team, it comes with its own set of challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. So many unique dynamics to navigate.
Yeah, and one of the big ones is conflict. And I'm really interested to unpack this article, why conflict resolution is an essential skill in remote teams.
Yeah, it's a good one. There's a lot in there.
It is. We're going to equip everyone listening with some practical ways to deal with disagreements, and not just survive them, but actually turn them into something positive.
Right. Because the thing is, we often think of conflict as a bad thing, something to avoid at all costs. But when you actually learn to deal with it effectively, it can really become like a secret weapon.
I like that, the secret weapon.
Yeah, for building a more, productive, happier team.
Okay, so let's start with why conflict resolution is such a big deal for remote teams specifically. Because, conflict happens everywhere, right? Teams, families.
Yeah, you're right. It's a part of life. It's just that when you're working remotely, you don't have that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
So it's really easy for things to get blown out of proportion.
Oh, I can definitely see that.
Like, somebody makes a sarcastic comment in a Slack message.
Right, right.
And somebody else takes it totally literally.
Ooh.
Or even just cultural differences in communication styles.
Ooh, yeah.
What might be considered direct in one culture might be considered rude in another. All these things can just escalate really quickly when you're not in person.
Yeah. I'm thinking if we start with communication protocols, maybe that would address some of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, being really clear about how and when to communicate. That's key.
Yeah.
Using the right tools for the job. So, maybe for quick questions, Slack is fine.
Right.
But for something more complex or detailed, maybe an email or a video call is better.
I was thinking even something as simple as like an agreement on email response times.
Oh, yeah.
That can make a huge difference, right?
Huge. Just knowing that, okay, if I send an email, I can expect to hear back within 24 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah, expectations,
Yeah.
exactly. And that can save a lot of frustration and misunderstanding.
Exactly, yeah. Because if you don't have those clear expectations, then people start to wonder. They start to make assumptions.
They do.
And that's when things can go wrong.
Okay, so we've got the communication protocols in place.
Yeah.
But, even with the best intentions, misinterpretations are going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah.
So what do we do then? What does the article say about that?
Well, that's where active listening really comes into play.
Okay.
And this is especially important in a remote setting because we don't have those visual cues, right? Body language, facial expressions. We're really relying on the words themselves.
Oh, yeah, that's so true.
So active listening is more than just hearing the words.
Yeah.
It's about really paying attention, showing empathy, reflecting back what you've heard to make sure you understand.
So not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's about making sure that the other person feels heard and understood. And, even simple things like using nonverbal cues in video calls, nodding your head to show you're listening, or even using the chat to say, I understand. Those little things can make a big difference.
I hadn't really thought about those nonverbal cues in that context. That's a really good point.
Yeah, because it's all about building that connection, even when you're not physically in the same room.
Okay, so we've talked about clear communication protocols and active listening. What about creating a space where people actually feel comfortable speaking up in the first place?
Yeah, that's huge.
Voicing concerns, disagreeing.
Right. You need to have that open dialogue, a culture where people aren't afraid to share their perspectives.
Right.
Whether that's, good or bad, agree or disagree.
I've heard some people talking about having like regular virtual coffee breaks or something like that.
Yes.
Just to encourage that kind of informal conversation.
Yeah.
Do you think that works?
Oh, I think it's brilliant. It doesn't have to be anything formal. It can just be, 15 minutes to chat about whatever's on people's minds.
Yeah.
And, sometimes those casual conversations can actually help you identify and address potential conflicts before they even become real problems.
Right. Sort of like a preemptive strike against conflict.
Exactly. It's all about building those relationships, that trust, so that when conflict does arise, and it will, people feel comfortable addressing it directly.
Okay. So what happens when things escalate? Despite our best efforts, a conflict just gets out of hand. What then?
Well, sometimes it's helpful to bring in a neutral third party,
Okay.
someone who can help facilitate a more productive conversation. It could be a team leader or even an external mediator.
Okay.
The important thing is that this person is seen as impartial and can help the team focus on finding a solution.
Got it. So communication protocols, active listening, open dialogue, and if needed, mediation.
I think we've got a pretty good toolkit here. But what about the actual approach to conflict resolution? Well, one of the most important things is to focus on solutions, not blame.
Okay, I like that.
Right, because when conflict arises, it's tempting to point fingers.
It is, it is. It's human nature.
Exactly, but that just makes things worse.
Makes it worse, yeah.
It creates defensiveness, resentment. It doesn't help anybody.
Right,
So instead, we need to shift our mindset. Think of it like firefighters.
right.
Their first priority is to put out the fire. Then, once the fire is out, then they can figure out how it started.
So you're saying first we address the issue, then we figure out who started it.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see how that approach would be more productive and less, well, blamey.
Exactly.
But what about accountability?
Hmm.
What if the conflict stems from, I know, a pattern of behavior? How do we balance problem solving with holding people accountable for their actions?
Right. That's a great question. And I think it's important to address both. So yes, the initial focus should be on finding a solution to the immediate problem, but then it's also crucial to have those conversations about the underlying issues.
Right. So it's not just about putting out the fire, it's about preventing future fires.
Exactly. It might involve giving constructive feedback, revisiting team expectations, maybe even providing some additional training or support.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about addressing the immediate issue, but also looking at the bigger picture.
Right.
It feels like conflict resolution is a skill set, kind of like any other that needs to be, honed and practiced.
It is. It's definitely something that takes time and effort to develop.
So how do we do that? How do we actually get better at this?
Well, I think investing in training and resources is huge.
Okay, yeah.
There are some fantastic online platforms, workshops dedicated specifically to conflict resolution skills. And a lot of them are tailored specifically for remote teams.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's amazing what a difference even a small investment in training can make.
So listeners, you know what to do. Share some of this information with your team. Explore those training resources. It could be a game changer for your team's dynamic.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, conflict is going to happen.
It is.
It's inevitable, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing.
Yeah.
With the right tools and the right mindset, it can actually be an opportunity to build stronger relationships, improve communication, and create a more productive and positive work environment.
Absolutely. So I want everyone listening to really take this to heart. Conflict in a remote team isn't a sign of failure. It's an opportunity.
I love that.
And with the right approach, it can actually make your team stronger and more resilient.
And that brings me to my final thought for you all. Now that you've got these tools, what is one concrete action you can take this week to proactively improve communication and conflict resolution within your own team? I want you to really think about it.
It's time to turn those insights into action. We believe in you, and we'll be back next time for another deep dive.
See them?
Bye, everyone.